My name is Marupene Ramokopa and I'm leading DPME, which stands for the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Today's dialogue was quite important, and it was one of the things that we were really looking forward to, precisely because it brings everybody together in one roof, whereby we speak issues pertaining to development. Now, in my view, of course, what we needed to do, or what I came out with, which I believe that government will definitely ensure that we put so much into it as it relates to the efforts that we are going to be putting in place. It is the issue of partnerships, of course, and making sure that we improve as it relates to active citizenry. How do we make sure that active citizenry work stream as it relates to developmental goals becomes something that is actually feasible, and what legislation can we put in place to ensure that whenever that happens, there is at least regulatory level whereby those that believe that they can actually play a role could be protected, but equally so they can actually play a meaningful role. So that's one of the things that I do believe that we need to work more on, because if we're going to plan on our own as government and we don't plan together with civil society, we don't plan together with business, we're going to continue to work in silos. And then the issue of active citizenry will not find a place, in my view, in whatever it is that we would be accounting on, or whatever it is that we will be planning on, most especially because we're going to start talking about institutionalization of planning, monitoring and evaluation.
It's a pleasure to join you. I'm Nelson Mufu, the United Nations Resident Coordinator based here in South Africa, and also designated representative of the UN Secretary General. And on behalf of the UN family, about 17 agencies, funds and programs based and working in South Africa, we're happy to be collaborating with the government. I think it is not a matter of changing indicators, but it's really about adjusting, as the Minister has indicated, how we plan, how we monitor, how we deliver on our development aspirations, the pace. So in the meeting we just had today, I think it was very gratifying being the UN Resident Coordinator based here in South Africa and representing the whole of the UN family, to look at ways in which we can accompany the government and work with stakeholders from across society. We call this the whole of society approach, in trying to really take stock of where we are, but seek commitments for collaboration and expedited actions in the right direction. The only way we can do that in the South African context is to look at what are the multipliers, what are the levers of change, as I refer to it, that will help us tackle, first of all, the issues of unemployment, inequalities, and poverty that South Africa is facing, that are fully integrated into the National Development Plan and the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's really about how we bring everyone together to play its part across government and across society. The private sector has an instrumental role to play in creating jobs, for example, in ensuring we do no harm towards the environment. The UN and the national development partners have a responsibility to accompany government and the people of South Africa in delivering on their aspirations. And civil society, of course, grassroots organizations have their part to play. So what we heard was a lot about also localizing the SDGs and development planning, making sure it has resonance and relevance where it matters, where people are, where development needs to happen at the rural level, in the informal settlements, and in other spaces beyond just Pretoria or Johannesburg. So I think from an African perspective, it is very important that we are mindful and cognizant of South Africa's role and I think weight in the continent. And everything we get right here has an impact, not only across the sub-region, but also globally. So we look forward to a South Africa that comes to the UN General Assembly and the Sustainable Development Summit with commitments, national commitments for accelerated, well-resourced, well-thought-through actions that will help it realize its plans.
We've got different ministers and other role players that come together to actually be able to deal with the issues of how do we improve on energy availability factor. And And currently we have had a situation where we go to our neighboring countries like Mozambique to go and say that on your excess electricity, how do we wheel it into South Africa and then use it while we're still trying to deal with the challenges that we have with Eskom. And we had a number of commitments that they have put in place. For example, they did say that immediately we can then now be able to access about 100 megawatts from them, while they're still working on seeing how they can bring 400 megawatts to us. So the international community has played a very big role in trying to assist us to then now be able to bring together a solution for South Africa.
You asked a question about business adopting a specific SDG, but just a quick reflection on the fact that the SDGs are interconnected. And so it's about business choosing maybe an entry point through which they're going to maybe try to achieve a number of the other SDGs.
One of the panelists who's from business but also from the UN side have said that as they were engaging with different sectors, especially the financial sector, they have been able to say that this is what we would like to concentrate on as it relates to the SDG. So it then now is incumbent upon us to say that how do we then now make, as I've already said, an enabling environment for them to be able to thrive and partner with government as we deal with issues of education for those that believe that education is quite important, and so forth and so on. So definitely we do believe that those kind of engagement are going to be able to assist us to know how to actually work together with government. The president, of course, have been meeting with a number of industries, and they've signed, and I think you alluded to it as well, commitments to say that this is what we would like to actually concentrate on. And some of those things, of course, although they are at that particular moment, they were not necessarily straightforward to dealing with SDGs, but when you listen to them, they impact on the SDGs.